So, what you guys should have done in this top corner is you should have plugged in Q, M, CP, and delta T. Does that make sense? Those are the variables. What does Q stand for? What's it stand for? Heat energy. Okay, what does M stand for? Mass, CP, specific heat, and delta T is change in temperature. Very good. Now, what are the units for Q? Which is joules. M is grams. CP we'll talk about in a second, and then delta T is which temperature? Either one, doesn't matter. All right, so let's look at question number 1. It says a 15.75 gram piece of iron absorbs that many joules of heat energy, and its temperature changes from 25 to 175. Calculate the specific heat capacity of iron. So what are we looking for? What's the question? What variable? Okay, we're looking for specific heat. So tonight, on your homework, this is literally where 1 point will come from. Rearrange that triangle for CP. This is worth 1 point, just rewriting the formula. So take that triangle on the top right and rearrange it for CP. Is that what you got? Okay, that's worth 1 point. Writing that. Now obviously if it's Q, solve for Q. If it's for M, solve for M. Solve for the right variable. Alright, number 2. Now we need to fill stuff in. Based on the numbers in the problem, what number is Q? 1086.75. There's 3 ways you could know this. What are the 3 ways? Okay, first of all it says joules. What else? Heat energy and absorbs. Very good. Now because it says absorbs, is that positive or negative? Very good, it's positive. Okay, so positive joules. Alright, the easy question. What's the mass of this piece of iron? Very good, 15.75 grams. I mean, it didn't even say mass, but you knew it because of what? The unit. Very good. Alright, so temperature, delta T. Right above this, and I've scrolled down too far for you to see it, but right above this, right here, it says delta T. Okay, come on now. It says, holy mess. It says delta T is equal to final minus initial. So whenever we read the problem, it says that the temperature went from 25 to 175. So what did the temperature end at? 175, and what was it initially? 25. So what's the delta T? How much did the temperature change? Very good. 150 degrees Celsius. One more important question. Did the temperature go up or did it go down? Up, so is that positive or negative? Positive, very good. Okay. Any questions so far? All we did was plug some numbers in. So tonight for homework, what you see in purple is worth 2 points. It's for plugging the numbers in and including the delta T in that number. So 1 point for the blue, 2 points for the purple. It's 4 problems. You can do it for 4 problems. Okay? 4 problems. So now we need our handy dandy calculator. Let's pull this thing up. Cut it on, clear it out. So we have 1086.75 divided by, open parentheses, 15.75. I would like for you guys to do this in your calculator to make sure that you confirm the answer, that you know how to do it in the calculator. Again, because I am grading on accuracy, and that's what shows up. Okay. Based on significant figures, let's look at our numbers. How many significant figures are in 1086.75? There's 6 of them. What about 150? There's 2 of them. And then what about 15.75? 4. All right. So for significant figures, mathematically, what are we doing in the calculator? Multiplying and. So what's the rules for those 2 things? The least number. You've got 6, 4, and 2. What's the least number? 2. So what does your answer come out to be? Does that make sense? Okay. So that is going to be our answer. We don't have to add anything. We don't have to round anything. We're good. So 0.46. Now 0.46 is fantastic. It's great. It's awesome, but it's wrong. What's missing? The unit. All right, so let's talk about the unit of specific heat. We've got J, G, and C. Do any of them cancel? So what's your unit? J over G times degrees C. That's your answer. That is worth 2 points on your homework. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, this is the part where some of you are going to lose these 2 points, because to get those 2 points, you've got to have 3 things. First of all, the right answer, obviously. In the correct number of significant figures with the right unit. Those 3 things to earn both those points. Yes, ma'am. The least number of decimal places. Yes, ma'am. When you're multiplying and dividing. We'll talk about subtraction in just a second. That's why I wanted to look at it. Whenever you plug it in, first of all, are you using the parentheses? Okay. Can I give you another suggestion to make it easier? Take the top number, divide it by 15.7 or 15.75, divide it again by 150, and that should give you the right answer. Any other questions on this? Does this seem simple? Okay. All right, let's look at number 2. Number 2 says, how many joules of heat, now let me know if that works, okay? How many joules of heat are needed to raise the temperature of 10 grams of aluminum from 22 degrees Celsius to 55 degrees Celsius if the specific heat of aluminum is 0.9 joules per gram degree Celsius? All right, what's the question? What are we looking for? Joules of heat. So what variable are we looking for? Q. Use your calculator, or use the triangle there at the top, and write out what Q is equal to. Again, that's worth 1 point. I think all of you should be able to get 1 point on the problems. You should at least be able to get 3, because just plugging numbers in should be a part of this as well. Okay? Is that what you got? Okay. All right. What is the mass? 10 what? Very good. 10.0 grams. What's the specific heat of aluminum? Okay, 0.90 joules divided by grams degrees Celsius. Again, the units do count. If you leave units off, you're not going to get credit. So don't just put numbers in. Make sure you include the units in this thing. And finally, our delta T. What did the temperature end at after we did the reaction? 55. And what did we start at? All right, so what's 55 minus 22? Very good. Is it positive or negative 33? Very good. And the reason we know that, because we wanted to raise the temperature. Yes, sir. Make sure you include units on everything. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to be very precise, because it's really going to matter when we get into stuff a little bit later on, that if you don't know what the unit is, you're not going to be able to tell what the answer is. Okay, so now let's bring up our calculator again. Clear this out. Erase this so we can actually see it. Okay. All right, so I've got 10 times 0.9 times 33 equals. This is the significant figure problem that's going to kind of get some of you. My question is, how many significant figures are in 10.0? 3? What about 0.90? Okay. So there are 3 here, there are 2 here, and what about 33? So what's the least number? 2. This is a tough one. How do you round 297 to 2 significant figures? Okay, so let's think about it. If I was going to give you $297 and you can only keep 2 significant figures worth of it, would you start with the ones place or the hundreds place when you're counting? 2 significant figures. Would you rather keep this end or the 7? Let's keep the 2. That's more money, right? So we'll start there. That's 2 significant figures. But what does that 7 make that 9 do? Round up to 0. Well, what does that make the 2 then do? Round up. So here's the deal. Rounds up to 300. But if you write it like that, how many significant figures is that? 1. If you add a decimal point, that turns it into 3. So how do you make it 2? Anybody? You could do that. The bar. Okay, so add that bar on top. 300 and put the bar on top. This is the one that always gets everybody. And again, what were we solving for? There's 2 ways to know what your unit is. You can be really intelligent and look back at the problem, and the problem says, how many joules? Duh. Oh my gosh. Joules. Or you could look at your units. Do grams cancel? And do Celsius cancel? Leaving you with J. Does that make sense? Right. Any questions on that? Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes. All right. I want you guys to see if you can do number 3 all by yourself, and we're going to come back and work it. See if you can do it. All right, so is this what everybody got so far? Again, 1 point for the blue. So I went ahead and plugged in Q, which was 67,500 joules of heat. Its mass was 1,500.0 grams, which is really oddly specific, but it is what it is. So delta T, what did you subtract? What from what? Or what minus what? Very good. 57 minus 32, which is how much? 25. Now, is that a positive 25 or a negative 25? Positive. Very good. Okay. So when you did this, my first question to you is based on significant figures. How many significant figures are in 67,500? 3. What about 1,500.0? There are 5. And what about 25? 2. So your answer should have how many? 2. Anybody got a number? Very good. 1.8. Did anybody not get that in your calculator? If you didn't, we need to kind of work on that together. And then what would your unit be for specific heat? Okay. Any questions on that one? Now's the time to ask. See if you can do number 4. And we'll work it out. Okay, so the last one. So 100 grams of 4 degrees Celsius water is heated until its temperature is until it's 37 degrees Celsius. If the specific heat of water is, and again, I know this kind of looks weird, but that is the number. It's not a typo. Calculate the amount of heat energy needed to cause this rise in temperature. So what are we looking for? What's the question? Anybody? Amount of heat energy. What variable does that mean we're solving for? Q. Okay. According to the triangle, what's Q equal to? It's okay. Q equals mCp delta T. All right. What's the mass of the amount of water that was used? Okay. Let me throw a curveball at you. Just to make sure we're on the same page. What if it had said 100 milliliters of water? What would be your mass? 100 grams. Do y'all remember that 1 milliliter is equal to 1 gram? Those are some kind of depth questions that I'm not going to get into, but you may see on like a worksheet, or you may see on another, like in the textbook, where they don't give you grams, they give you volume. And that was what you guys had to do on the lab. Remember, you had 30 milliliters of water, but what was that equivalent to? 1 gram, or excuse me, 30 grams. And so that's kind of where that kind of ties back into it. But they do give you the mass instead of the volume. Okay? What's the specific heat of water? Okay, 4.18 joules over gram times degree C. And then finally, this is when you got to do a little bit of technical reading. It says 100 grams of 4 degrees water is heated until it's 37. So what did you do? What minus what? Very good. Which is a total of how much? 33. Is it positive or negative? Very good. Positive 33 degrees Celsius. And so when we plug this into our calculator, clear, on, clear, we've got 100, not 1,000, times 4.18 times 33 gives me that answer right there. Alright, so this is the one that's going to get some of you as well. As far as significant figures, let's look at what we have. How many significant figures are in 100.0? 4. What about 4.18? 3, and then 33. 2. So how do I round 13,794 to 2 significant figures? Very good. Does everyone understand why? Instead of me giving you $14, wouldn't you rather have $14,000? Okay? Or would you rather have $94? Does that make sense? Maybe. I don't know unless you help me out. Okay, so your final answer is 14,000. Very good. Joules. 14,000 joules. Okay. There's one thing that I want to talk about real quick, and that is the significant figures when it comes to addition and subtraction. Because did you subtract in this problem? Okay. You should have done 37 minus, actually let me come over here so you can see a little better. You should have done 37 minus 4.0. Now, the rules for significant figures and subtraction and addition is you go with the term with the least number of decimal places. How many decimal places does 37 have? None. How many decimal places does 4.0 have? 1. Well, you want to go with the one that has the least number. So how many decimal places should your answer have? None. And so when you do this, what you guys wrote was right. 33. Completely hypothetical. What if it had been 37.0? What would you need to add to this answer to make it correct? 0.0. Okay? Again, it's all hypothetical. You go with the least number of decimal places. Any questions? All right. So tonight, do the 4 on the back, 5 points apiece for accuracy. There's only one thing that I'm going to go ahead and tell you. I'm not going to remind you to do this tonight. There will be no reminder. This is all on you tonight.